Hey, you guys, thank you so much for being patient with us. Oh, my goodness. But because we are T-Tappers, we are here, we are calm, composed, and so excited to share about fascia.
Yes.
All right. So, Margaret, hey, girl, so happy to be on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you kidding me? This is so great. So now that I've talked my face off about fascia, I can be quiet, even though nobody talk about. So let's start from the beginning, okay? I know that you are, got all excited about fascia as well. And am I right that when you were filming and producing, putting together your pregnancy whole program, which is awesome, by the way.
Yes.
That you kind of got some Teresa time together. Is that true? And you two kind of geeked out, as I love to say, on fascia.
Oh, yes. Yes. She definitely was. For the whole process of creating the pregnancy workout, she was really, teaching me little things and, just throwing little nuggets of wisdom here and there that I got to be exposed to, which was super fun. Because, it was really special to get to spend that one-on-one time with her and, hear all of her the little bits that she would say about fascia. One of the coolest things that she told me was about that there's more nerve endings in your fascia than in your muscles, which is super cool. Like, they actually say it's 6 to 10 times the nerve endings are in your fascia rather than in your muscles. So it's super duper cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. So what I was blabbing to myself about before you came on is this is, I've been fascinated with fascia again because of Teresa and talking and all the science and the somatics that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting because what I'm finding is that it's like science is now catching up and proving what we've already experienced to be true.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, we're going, oh, that's why T-Tapp has been so effective for so long in the foundation of it. Now that we're starting to understand all about what fascia really is and does and what it doesn't do, which is not much. It's
right. It's pretty extensive.
It really is. And now actually it's being called the largest organ in our bodies. We're actually calling it an organ where we used to say it was skin, but now the fascia, because it's holding everything in, it's completely together on everything. It's actually much larger organ than skin, has more nerve endings than skin, has its own communication system. I mean, it's just fascinating stuff.
It really is. Yes. And the more I've learned about it, the more I just continually be amazed at all that is involved with it. And of course, with the fascia, anytime that you activate it or you work it, you can actually get more muscle too with the nerve endings things too, which is just like, because, everybody knows about, that T-Tapp is beneficial with the inch loss and the lymphatic system. But then when you add in that fascia component, it just takes it to a whole new level. Yeah.
Absolutely. So true. So you had made a statement in an article that you wrote, hint, hint, that will be coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
about the 2016 retreat and how that changed your body. You want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to. So in 2016, I went to the retreat, the T-Tapp retreat. And I believe that I was a trainer in training at that point. It was either 2015 or 2016 that I went to the retreat. And that time that I went, Teresa was really doing a lot of her teaching on fascia. And it was, I think, in fact, one of the years she called it like this year of the retreat, the focus is fascia. I think at the beginning, she said the focus is fascia. And of course, I had never even really heard of fascia. So I was kind of like, well, I'll be my own guinea pig here and let's just put Margaret through the fascia, workouts. And what I found was at the end of the week, of course, they measure you at the beginning of the retreat and then at the end of the retreat. And my measurements, I had changed by 10.5 inches. I'd lost 10.5 inches. And of course, in less than like 2 days. So I couldn't believe it, because it had not only lost the inches, but I lost a lot of inflammation. Like I felt less puffy. I just felt like it had removed all of the excess inflammation out of my body. But that wouldn't, it wouldn't follow that you would have less inflammation and inch loss because, when you work out, it creates that inflammation. So when you do the Fascia Fitness, it's like it gets out the inflammation while creating the inch loss and cinching in the muscles. And I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is unbelievable. And it wasn't water weight because it stayed gone. I went home, in fact, and lost even more. So.
And isn't that what we always said, like 5 days after the retreat, that's when you'll be at your absolute
yes.
And,
yes.
And that is what happens. That's just so fascinating. Okay, so a couple of things that I have found fascinating with fascia, and then we can kind of compare some notes. Well, there's so many things, but one of them is, we teach our fascia how to act by our movements. So every time we move, the fascia is shape-shifting with us, right? Yeah. So what happens is when we don't move, the fascia doesn't have a way to move. It can't move. It doesn't move itself necessarily, right? It shape-shifts around our movement. So let's say that we are living in this society, like most of us, and we're like this, right? At the computer with the head forward and the shoulders, and we're just like this all day, and we're not moving. Well, the fascia then starts to congeal, right? It gets tight, almost like cement, especially over time. Then we get up and what do? And then we drive home like this, and now we're exhausted because let's face it, when you're all hunched up like that, you're not getting oxygen in there. You're not getting nutrients into the cells. You're not pumping your lymphatic system. You're not pumping your circulatory system. And the fascia is like, yeah, girl, we're just going and glue ourselves up, right? So that's what I mean by that. If you're not moving, you're going to teach your fascia how to be. If you don't walk, if you're sitting all the time, all that fascia congeals in that way. So then people say, okay, well then how do we hydrate? We'll just drink some water. Well, drinking water, yes, we want to drink water, but you have to drink water and then move to move that fascia. That's how you hydrate, right? To get that fascia in and moving. And it acts like a sponge. So like think about a sponge, you wring the sponge out, right? All the water out. And then when you bring it back, what does it do? It absorbs the water. So we've got to move the body in all these different angles and ways in order to keep that fascia slipping and sliding all over, right? So now when we think about that, okay, that's kind of interesting. You have to move every day. You have to move in all different angles. It can't just be one because we've got fascia that connects everything. So then I think, okay, that's interesting. So now we look at just even foundational T-Tapp, right? Mm-hmm. So in foundational T-Tapp, just do primary back stretch. What are we doing? Well, we're curling the back and we're arching and we're opening up. The knees are bent, right? The knees are bent out. So we're working the fascia here and in the knees. And by the way, you guys, some of the biggest amounts of fascia are called the trousers. Had you heard this, Margaret?
Yes.
I did. Yeah. The trousers. And that just means that there are huge sheaths of fascia all around the knees. Yes, some knee pain, you guys, is not, no, my knees are in pain. I have bad knees. Mm-hmm. No, you just haven't worked in the different angles to work the fascia. It tightens up around the knee. See, so that's another reason. But in T-Tapp, we keep those knees bent, don't we? Or in the plies, we bend and straighten. We're always working in all the different ranges of motion, all the different aspects. It's not just one kind of a repetitious movement, right? So
yeah, it's that variety of movement. Yeah.
And that's what we know now is that you have to do it variety, and it has to be all these different angles because the fascia is everywhere and you want to suck it up and really open up. If you don't, it cements, and that's where you get into pain. Mm-hmm. And think about when it's cemented, then we don't have that communication system. It just stops, right? Because it goes through the fluids. So now we're in pain. And now what do people do while we trying to just go and really, blast it off? No, I'm not going to talk about the blaster.
Yeah.
Not about the blaster. And for some people, that might be exactly what you need. But for others, that's painful because it's very painful.
Mm-hmm. And it's aggressive too. Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so share with me, like, are you in agreement with all those things? Kind of give me some more thoughts, because I know you have a lot of them on this.
Oh yeah, yeah, and especially with the subject of like chronic pain, and how the fascia relates to that. Because something that I was realizing is, you can go in and get an MRI or a CAT scan. Let's say you have a pain. You can go into an MRI or a CAT scan. You can go in there and they can, see the imaging. They can see, obviously the skeletal system and, some organs in there, but you can't see the fascia in there. So you could have someone who has chronic pain and they're like, I just can't figure out what it is. And, they've done the CAT scan, they've done the MRI, and the fascia doesn't show up in that. So it's this invisible network that it has implications in the muscular system and the skeletal system, but you might not see it on something like an MRI. And the doctors will tell you, oh, well, we need to do this or that, when really it might be the fascia is pulling the bone in, a different direction, or it's really not, it's not the bones necessarily. It is just the fascia is actually causing that, like the range of motion or the issues with, your knees, like you pointed out, especially the backs of the knees. Cause when you look on that, like on a mannequin and the white stuff, that's the visible fascia that you can see. And you notice too, on women, we have more of that fascia on the lumbar spine than men do. It's actually really cool. I was researching that, how women have more density of the fascia in the lumbar column. And it's because we need to have flexible hips and a flexible low back for stuff like pregnancy. It's very interesting. That's just a design difference. And if you've ever wondered, okay, this is interesting too. For example, with men, sometimes you see that, men typically, they'll be playing golf or something and they hurt their back, or, women have that too. But for some reason, it seems like men tend to, be pulling their back a lot. And that actually is, you wonder, it's like women have more flexible low backs. Guys, they don't have quite the density that's there. And that's why I utilize stuff like the primary back stretch with fascia focus, because it really hydrates their entire back, and that curled motion just really hydrates the lumbar spine, because there's a lot of fascia there. Like if you look at it, it's like, whoa, this is almost completely white. Like I'm talking like back, and your low back. So it's just fascinating. I'm always learning stuff about it. So yeah.
I did not realize that, especially the difference in men and women. And that makes so much sense. How interesting. Also, it's, one of the things that I've learned is that, stretching, okay, I'm going to use that word stretching, and there's different ways to stretch, etc. But just that moving constantly, and I'm going to call it like this stretch, doing it, it's really important when it's specifically to help hydrate fascia. It really is most beneficial to go slowly and really move, and to move, okay, right there, I'm in pain, to kind of go slowly and really work it, to not jam in there. You really want to kind of baby it and make it, happy, if you will, to undo it. There's no reason to be extreme with it. And, so many of us are, no pain, no gain. Not with this, because as you do that, you don't want to tear it. And that's what people end up doing. They get, and then the fascia creates more scar tissue to heal itself. So the kinds of stretches then that Teresa added into the Fascia Fit are not things that are aggressive. And, that's why she was really concerned about some of the more aggressive kinds of things that people were doing. And, did in one of the retreats, I'm not sure which one it was, it might have been even 16, where she had some people, like if you were going to use a more aggressive kind of therapy with this, then you had your own challenge category.
I remember that. Yeah.
Because she really wanted to see herself, okay, you're going to use something more aggressive, and then you're just going to use our fascia fits, our workouts, and where you really get a better result. And the pictures show that you really did not. That just doing it, now again, we're not talking about somebody who has like really all the way to stage 4, bound up. So, we'll be, clear about that, but just for the majority of us, no. And so to just really do all the stretches, I'll have you, if you don't mind, kind of showing one or two. You did it on a video. Yeah. To be showing. And it's just, again, just constantly moving, working it like that sponge and adding more of that into some of the workouts.
Yes. Yeah. And something that's really cool too, that back to kind of the balance and the working from head to toe, from the inside out, it's kind of cool that it works the fascia, kind of how T-Tapp works our muscles, which is layer by layer from the inside out. And what's really interesting for me, another personal experience with this is back when I was younger, I did a lot of snowboarding. And I had a big fall one time that I actually heard a crack. I was like 16. I remember just whacking, the snow on my right side of my sacrum. And ever since then, I have noticed that ironically, the left shoulder and the right hip are connected in the fascial line. There's different fascial lines. There's like 12. And it's interesting that for me, I didn't make that connection until I started doing some of the Fascia Fit, that if someone watching this, you have a pain in your shoulder or a pain in your hip, it might be connected, and usually is connected lower down the chain. For me, my right hip is connected to that left shoulder. So it's very interesting.
Oh, you connected some dots for me. Thank you for that. I always called it reciprocal limb, right? Because we know what happens here. It tends to be there, but I never put that together with the fascial chain.
Yeah, it's super cool. Because I was wondering, I was like, okay, why if I stretch my right hip, does my left shoulder feel better? And also and it's interesting, in the Fascia Fit series, she has you really breathing a lot. She has you focusing on breathing. She has you drinking water in between, and she has you doing a lot of those fascia stretches. And the breathing is interesting because sometimes people will have, in the back of their ribs, they'll have some fascial restriction in that cavity there. And they won't be able, and you know this from your somatic yoga, that you can't get that neurokinetic awareness to get your ribs up if it's so tight back there. And when you breathe, it's not going to do that nice, 3D breath where it goes top to bottom, side to side, back to front. You're not going to be able to get that. And I was one of those people who, being a former swimmer, I breathe like a fish. I was just, and when I researched it more, I realized, I need to breathe deeply to stretch that fascia in the back of my ribs. And lo and behold, I would have this popping in one of my sides of my shoulder blades. It stopped when I started to stretch the fascia with that breathing technique. So it's all, she baked it all into the program. So she really kind of, put it all in there for you. So you don't even have to think about it. You just do what she's doing. And, voila, you get all the benefits of T-Tapp with the added layers of the fascia work. So.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And I know, especially when I would work a lot of with people in person, one-on-one, and you would just kind of, if you just gently touch their back, especially if we're doing like arm pumps and they just could not move, and I would touch their back and it would be like a solid sheet. Like you're not muscular there. And now, that was years ago. And now I'm like, it's so connected, like, oh my gosh, because they didn't move. Excuse me. And then they're like, okay, well, I can't do arm pumps. That was especially before we've been bent up.
Yeah.
I get up with the towel and I could barely move because that fascia was so bound up. Now, over time, they were able to do it. So also, you said something else that I want to just highlight, which I love, and that is, so many T-tappers, they're like, yeah, I've got my ribs up. And or they think they have their ribs up and you're watching them and you're seeing no movement. And or I've been doing these arms forever and I'm not losing anything in here. Mm-hmm. And they get so frustrated, which I so understand.
Yes.
But if you are too tight here, you can't get, it's all chains, you guys. So if you don't work on the fascia and all the different angles really working it, you're bound up. You can't get to the muscles.
Yeah. You can't access it because you can't access something that you can't activate. And if you can't activate it, if it's so tight, you can't do that. You can't, I've seen you say this before with your somatic yoga stuff. It's like the brain thinks that, is just holding that muscle tight, and the brain just like, not going to let it go. And then we go at it with, a lacrosse ball or one of those foam rollers that looks like you're going to, in a medieval torture chamber with the spikes on it. I've used those before in the past before I knew that it's gentle and it's the slow. And it's the really, not like, let's just get in here and really, forcing it to, obey what we're asking. It's kind of just a really slow and gradual. And that's what I love about the Fascia Fitness, is that it is that slow, deliberate usage of your muscles, which really works the fascia a whole lot better than let's just, go at it with a,
right.
That's something really, really, really hard.
No pain, no gain is out the door at this point. I mean, if you're still into that, go do something else. Don't do this because, and this is what so works. Let's talk. You mentioned something else I'd like to connect as well. Same thing with the Fascia Fitness, and that is, brain body fitness. Right? So the brain loves the fascia. The fascia loves the brain. It's like so interconnected. The brain's always fascinated about what the fascia is doing, and the fascia is giving the brain information. So the more fascia stuff we do, the more the brain connects as well.
Yes.
So as we continue with the intense fascia work in the more recent Fascia Fitness things, there's also brain body. So like on the floor, brain body fitness floor is all about fascia as well. So I think
one of my favorites, honestly, the floor stuff, because especially for people with like adrenal fatigue and stuff like that, getting on the floor is a little bit easier sometimes than doing it standing. If you're just wiped, hey, it's easier. I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier to like be in the floor and have the floor kind of supporting your weight than standing sometimes. So yeah, I love it's just been wonderful for me, because I was such a fitness, like I was just a fitness, like doing everything under the sun, except for the things that my body really liked, which obviously after that weekend, my body really responded to the Fascia Fitness really well, and my body was just like, yes, thank goodness she finally understands that we need to be gentle. So, yeah.
It's funny you say that, because one of the years, probably the most recent year that you won in your category, and I had a phone interview with you, and there was some stuff you said, and I got to tell you, at the time, I was just pondering this. Like, I knew that what you were saying was the truth, but I couldn't quite figure it out, like why it was like that. And this is what you said. You're probably like, what did I say?
I hope it was good.
But what you said was, before, you were always doing really what you just said, like such intense, like you would do a lot of total, and like you would really do it. And yes, you got results. But this last time when you won, you were really busy. I think it was probably even when you were getting married, and you were just busy as you could be. So you were just fitting some 15-minute workouts in, like here and there, like a couple times a week. And you were blown away that you lost all these inches when you weren't doing intense, long workouts.
Yes, which for me is completely counterintuitive, because if I'm not, in pain or really like laying on the ground in a pool of sweat, then I haven't done anything, which is not true. And actually with that challenge, I remember, because I got married in March. The challenge was February to April. I believe it was one of those years. It was 2016, because that's the year I got married.
There you go.
And I was on my honeymoon for part of the 60-day challenge. And you want to know how much T-Tapp I did there? Not much. Not much. So at least for me, it was really eye-opening to see that for my body was like, oh, we like this. We like you not just, I'm going to do total every day. And honestly, for me, when I focused on the fascia, I saw even more of the inch loss, or just changes, because I'm a combo with short torso tendencies, like my body type. So we're the same. That's right. So I can always use as much space as I can get between my rib and hip is good. And I've noticed that over the years, I've actually, I used to be really compressed, like, rib to hip used to be just super compressed. And I'm a lot longer there than I used to be. And I know it's because I'm just, everything's lengthening out from the fascia too. So it's really cool.
So brilliant. I just love, love, love it. So let's just talk quickly about, I'm going to kind of go over, and please, feel free to kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
Just so people have been asking me, on media, okay, so like which one would be a fascia fitness? Somebody asked me today, and I thought this was a great question. I had to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Senior fit, a fascia fitness workout.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? I believe that if I asked Teresa right now, she would say that was where she really began to bring fascia fitness in.
I totally agree.
Right?
And Senior Fit was one of the first things that I started with the Fascia Fitness series. Like Senior Fit was the, primary like bedrock, I feel like, for the Fascia Fitness, because I had been doing, total and basic and like Ladybug, not half of Ladybug, the whole Ladybug. Because I really wanted to get the results, and I really, was like, harder, faster, stronger, all of that. And then and then I ended up doing the Senior Fit, and I was like, this is kicking my butt, and it looks easy. It's basic. It's similar to basic workout, but it's strung out over, 45 minutes or an hour. Like it was just very, very holding things and breathing. And yeah, and I totally agree. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement. And I'll tell you what, God love her, why she ever called it Senior Fit. I just hate that. I'm like, how could I do this workout? It's called Senior Fit. Like,
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it was, I loved it. I loved teaching it. It was so much easier to teach. People got it, but they got great results. And yes, there were a lot of water breaks and kickouts, but now we understand that actually is a good thing because you drink and kick and move it all around. So I say Senior Fit was really the very first one. We're in agreement with that.
Totally
and then what we have, and we have this on DVD, and it's called Better Body and Beauty Basics, but it's the 2016 Retreat DVD. And that's the retreat that you got your incredible results with. Yes. And Teresa put that out, and we'll have that for you guys up. It's going to be on sale this week. But that was amazing. And so she tweaked and added a lot of the fascia fit stuff. Yes. It's like completely different. You have to learn a whole new workout. No, you just she added some of this stuff in that made it even more effective, right?
Yeah. Oh, that retreat was fantastic. I've done that 2016 retreat video a lot because I just love it. I love how slow and deliberate it is. And slow does not mean easy, by the way. Slow means harder. Whoa, this is intense. Right. So yes, I love that one though.
I do too. And then she came out with, and I'm not sure I'm in the correct order, but anyway, the turn back time. Now, turn back time, a lot of people have never heard of. We don't really talk about it, but I really thought that was a very interesting workout too, where it is 36 minutes standing and 28 on the floor, sort of like, so you have a combo on it. And it was a combination that she put together where she still had stuff from, basic total, and then she had a little bit for more, and then she had some Senior Fit. So she took those moves and she tweaked them, adding fascia to them, but in a way that you can't cheat. She always loved to do that, right? So she could see and not. So she added that and then started some of that fitness on the floor in the 25-minute floor. So I think that's a really nice workout DVD too. Have you ever done that one?
Yes, I have. I love that one. I got that one shortly after getting the Senior Fit. And I was like, oh, this is a nice segue, because I learned the activation from Senior Fit, which Senior Fit instructional is very challenging. And it really gets you into that activation. Right. And then once you had that, then you can go over to like turn back time and be like, whoa, this is only, 27 minutes, but it's full on. It's full on activation. So,
right. Yeah, which is fabulous. And then the last DVD that we have that is really considered fascia fit. Yes, the floors are as well, but specific for what we're talking about. And it's just called Fascia Fitness. On top it says step 1 or, whatever she has it, but it's Fascia Fitness. And that was the one that she did during the last retreat that she taught, that 2017. So she took a lot of the fitness fascia and she added even more to it. There were a few new moves that she put in there. And for
those
me,
lat hops. Oh,
the berries.
Those are so hard. Oh, yes. And cardiovascular too, for sure.
Cardiovascular, definitely. So you got that, that high intensity interval training, but not a lot, but enough. And it's pumping the lymph, right? And adding the heart rate to it. And also, I'll tell you the one that always just like, oh my goodness, in class, we're always like, are you nauseous? I'm nauseous. How are you?
Yeah.
Don't worry, what I'm going to talk about is the jazz twist.
Oh, yes.
Oh my
Ooh, with the pressing, the stretch. And then I love the leaning back. That feels so good. And when I do that, I feel it, if you look at a chart of the fascial lines, I'm like, I feel it in the front, the spiral line. I feel it in the deep frontal line, the back. I mean, I just feel it everywhere. And you know how your back leg is too. You feel it in that psoas because, everybody's psoases are tight. I don't know if psoases is the plural, but it's that postural muscle that gets really tight when we sit. And when you're doing that leaning back with your back leg bent and then you do whether you do the top of your foot, because of course our hands and feet are just covered with fascia as well.
Right.
It's just, wow.
I know. That's probably at this point, one of my apps, really a favorite. Mm-hmm. And it was really the last one she did. And I loved it. And I know you did too. So we actually have those 3 DVDs on sale for you this week, you guys, so that you can really kind of check it out and see the difference and start to use some of the fascia stretches. So you then, again, we're going to come all the way back to where you were playing with Teresa, and she was giving you some extra stuff on fascia, extra information, and really working with you. And then you did a clinic. Was it a clinic? Would you call it?
It was a clinic. Yes.
Share with us. Tell me all about that.
Yes. So I believe it was shortly after I got my master trainer certification, and I decided that I would take what she's taught in the Fascia Fitness. I would call it the Fascia Fitness flavor of T-Tapp. I took all of those, wanted to take all of those moves, and I wanted to teach them at a slow instructional style. And I essentially dragged it out over 2 hours because I really wanted people to have an option who are entering into the Fascia Fitness section of T-Tapp, and they're really wanting to learn the moves slowly, and you're wanting to, know the why behind it. And, here's how to do it. And here's why it works, basically. And so I ended up teaching that, having it filmed professionally. And I had a couple people in that class, and I had really good feedback. In fact, one of the 60-day challenge winners from this past year was in that class. I taught this back in March of this year. So if Tammy is watching this, hello, Tammy. You're awesome. And Tammy was in that class as well. And I also had a gentleman who had really injured his shoulder. And there's this sequence that we do. It's an arm sequence in part of the clinic. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. His range of motion improved. Like he basically said 80% of his range of motion in his shoulder improved before and after the clinic. It was crazy. So in 2 hours, and we couldn't, he was saying, wow, it's really, getting a lot of more range of motion. And then of course, other people lost inches as well, but it was really a nice, show of that you can lose the inches, but also you can rehab at the same time. It's kind of like you have your cake and eat it too. You can have all of the things in there. And I taught that class while I was 24 weeks pregnant with my son, who is now 3 months old. So that's the ultimate, if I can do it, so can you. I thought, okay, this will be fun too, both for me to look back on and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But it felt, just to a pregnant person, all of that stretching, because I was already stretching outward, but doing all of that stretching really, really helped. And I did it really slow. I wanted it to be at a very instructional level so that people could come in and be like, oh, okay, now I can take this info and go and do the other Fascia Fitness workouts and understand them a little bit better. So.
Oh, I love it. So you guys, Margaret has that. She's had that up on our T-Tapp store. And for this through Sunday, that's also, she was kind enough to put that on special as well. And along with the other DVDs. And I'm just thrilled that you did that, because I think that's just going to be so helpful, because there's a lot to this. It's not simple and easy. And one of the things with Teresa, she was a great educator, but she thought, and let's take the but out and say, and she thought really fast. She talked really fast, and she taught really fast. And so it could be, you really had to listen a lot and really work with it a lot to really catch some of the nuances, right?
Oh, yes.
So I love that you put that, especially the fascia part, because there's just so much to it in something that's slowed down and really the whys around it as well. So that the brain can also process, because that's all part of it. If we can let the brain process, there's so much brain body. The brain understands. Now it goes back in. Like you just shed such a great light. I'm just like lit up about the fascia chain, right? Connecting that. But now when I do it, my brain's going to get that. And I'm going to get even more out of it. So I thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, I loved Fascia Fitness is one of my favorite varieties of T-Tapp to teach, because I do it a lot. Because I have 2 children under 2 years old. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of, because, I'm sure people are probably hearing, oh, Fascia Fitness, I would love to be able to do, add in Fascia Fitness. Well, you can have your T-Tapp, have your Fascia Fitness there too, and you can do it all in one. It's not like you have to add in a new thing into your schedule, as I know we're all very busy. And it's kind of gives me the most bang for my buck when I do the Fascia Fitness, because I feel so good. In fact, I did it this afternoon, and I just feel so good after I do the workouts, because, if a lot of us feel tense, sometimes you feel kind of tense after a workout and a little sore. And with these, my muscles feel long, they feel strong. And really lengthened out when I do the Fascia Fitness at the end. I just feel good. I sleep really good afterwards too.
Yes. So. Yes. Now, I know we're going on, but there's just one more little thing that I just want to mention, just almost in passing, but it's sort of important in my opinion. And that is when we're doing this work, this brain body fascia work, it's important to know also that our emotional bodies are all part of the muscles and the fascia. It's all connected. So, when we have emotional experiences, that the brain processes it, and it gets processed in our bodies physically. So sometimes, especially I find when we're on the ground and we're doing some of that fascia fit, even like a ladybug workout, because everything we do in T-Tapp is fascia related. Okay. And you're kind of open like that sometimes it will automatically release emotions. That information and the inflammation. And you might find yourself getting teary or even just bursting out in tears. I know when I teach my general somatic yoga classes, because it's very, we do a lot in the fascia, etc. And the same with T-Tapp, that some people are like, oh my God, Renee, like I just cried through that whole class. Anyway,
that's a good sign.
Thing, because it releases stuff that's stuck. And I just like to say, look, we don't have to create story around it. It doesn't need to be, well, why did that happen? And was that? It doesn't make any difference. The bottom line is it's stuck. And when it sticks, just like the fascia, it creates tension in the fascia and then in the muscles and the ligaments. So by releasing it, you're also releasing trapped emotions. And think about when you release all that tension and trapped emotion, how much more energy then is available to you to use during your day.
Yes, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I've had people who will be like, I get really emotional on this move, or they will cry. I have had people cry in my class before, and I'm like, it's okay. This is good. Also yawning too. When I see people start to yawn, I'm like, yes, this is good. We are yawning. We're opening up here. So they're both of those. It's amazing how much the emotional side is connected to the fascia, and people don't realize it, but it really is.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad. That's so cool. I love talking to other people who are doing this too, right? To training, because we all can kind of share these wild experiences that, we might not even think. And I think it's just important just to mention it, because sometimes if you're in your house by yourself doing this, and all of a sudden you could like think something's wrong, like,
right.
No, fabulous. And let it flow. Just let it flow, right? Emotion is just energy in motion. Just let it go and just celebrate it, because you're going to feel so much better.
Yes, it's a good sign. That's why I always tell people, it's a good sign. It's good.
Oh, honey, thank you so much for taking time away from your family tonight.
Thank you for having me on here. I'm glad it worked out. I know tech is so aggravating sometimes.
I know, it's the whole time. It was me. I don't know. I still don't know, but at least this worked out.
We will never know why, but we're glad that it worked.
For some reason. Now, I just want to mention real quick, because I'm looking over here at the comments, and Nadia asked me, can you remind us your names and how we can find your work? You don't know our names? We would love to, Nadia. Thank you. I'm Renee Mclaughlin, and this is Margaret Berry. And we can put that in the comments when we're done, too. And Margaret, if you want to come back here, too, and maybe put your website on.
Sure. Yeah.
So you guys, to end this, thank you so much for coming on. So tomorrow you're going to get an email. Actually, our site is open tonight, but you'll also get an email. It's going to have a great article that Margaret wrote. Thank you so much, on fascia and some fascia stretches she did in a video. We've embedded that into the blog. I don't know if you knew that or not, so it'll be in there. And you'll have this, and we're doing a 30% off sale on those DVDs. And Margaret was kind enough to do a sale on her recorded class package of that incredible Fascia Fitness instructional 2-hour. So get ready, you guys. It's going to be phenomenal. And so we'd love to have you come and experience all that. And any other comments, we're here for you, just to support you.
Yeah, because we want you all to experience Fascia Fitness like we have, because it's great. It's amazing. So, yeah.
It really is. And it's great for a lifetime. And I think that's the other great thing. I'm, I don't know if we would consider me a senior, but
no.
And so that's the other cool thing. It doesn't matter what age, what stage, and what fitness stage you're in. Everybody can do this and benefit. So that's another fabulous part of the whole T-Tapp Fascia Fitness whole series. So fabulous. Rhonda, how do you get the newsletter? Thank you, honey. If you'll just hit message on our Facebook page and just write out, Renee, I want the newsletter, and leave your email. And we'll make sure that we add you to the email list. And thank you so much for asking that. All right, you guys, thank you. We're going to close up now. Margaret, blessings.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. This is so fun. And for those of you who don't know, Renee was my mentor, one of the trainers that mentored me for certifying as a T-Tapp trainer. So I consider, Renee is one of the people who's really influenced me a lot. And I always love talking to you, Renee. So thank you.
That's you, girl. All right, go enjoy those babies. Thank you so much, girls.
All right, bye.
Bye.